Heart to Heart with me, Shakti Sundari. My next guest is the amazing Destin Gerek, who's an expert on evolved masculinity. He's also been described as Tantra meets Tony Robbins. So welcome to you, Destin.
Thank you, it's really a pleasure.
So I've heard a lot about you,
Uh-oh.
Destin. But I don't know anything about you, and all I've heard, I don't know what it is, but people have said that you are Tony Robbins meets Tantra.
I've heard that before too.
So would you comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, at its base, I've dived really deeply into both of those types of worlds. I've been on a path around sexuality, starting my own education, trainings, from an academic perspective, starting in my undergraduate college years 20 years ago. Very psychology, sociology, cultural anthropology based, and then from there started moving into the body. Aside from my bodywork training, and then went to the Institute for the Advanced Study of Human Sexuality to be California State Certified Sexological Bodyworker and get all that training and how our sexual experiences and traumas live on in our bodies, and that trauma is held in the musculature of the body, particularly around the pelvis, but it can be released. And learning different ways of doing that. But after some years, and somewhere around that time, I had my own spiritual awakening after first having a massive breakdown of my own around the time of the Iraq War starting in 2003.
So what happened?
I got very involved in political activism at that time in 2003-2004, and I experienced a lot of police brutality. And after my third arrest in a year, I had both my rotator cuffs torn and my cervical disc herniated by the San Francisco Sheriff's Department. And believe me, I have stories galore. And and it led to a massive downward spiral in my own life. I lost all faith in humanity. I lost all faith in, I just thought the world's going to hell in a handbasket and we might as well just give up, it's done. And the world is falling to shit, nobody cares. And
I think a lot of people are thinking that right now, actually.
yeah, the thing is I don't feel that way anymore. So,
can I just go back to that? I want to hear going to the pits of the shits first, though.
Well, the beautiful thing is, it's kind of funny because following that experience, it was myself and 37 other people who had this particularly intense few days in jail, being messed with experience, and we ended up in a class action lawsuit against the department. And during that time period, because those things drag out, I hit my rock bottom. I threw a backpack on my back, went hitchhiking through southern Mexico with like $200 to my name and spent 2.5 months down there. And I thought I'd hit rock bottom. No, I had further down to go. But the thing that happened at that bottom point is I gave up. I wouldn't have called it surrendering to the divine or anything at the time, because I didn't believe in such things at the time. I was totally
No spiritual
none at that time.
part of your life.
And but the only thing I knew anymore was that I didn't know anything, and that's a very beautiful place. Instead of that rigid control, and honestly, before that, I thought I knew everything. Suddenly, and in that moment, the divine just flooded in. And I can point to a particular day in October 2000, I'm sorry, like somewhere around November 4th, 2004, when everything changed, a switch flipped. So as if every person I was meeting, every conversation that I was having was designed for this change to go within me. So what was going like this in this downward spiral since then has been like this. Now, it hasn't just been up. It hasn't been like, oh, everything's been perfect since then. Definitely not. I've had some major crashes in between, but if you follow that trajectory, it just keeps getting more and more. I don't know. Whereas following that path, over time, I felt more and more disempowered. I feel more and more empowered now. One thing that's remained consistent is even through that time, there was always a sense that the world isn't the way that I know that it could be, and I feel such a strong sense of responsibility to do something about it. What's changed are my tactics.
So what kind of man were you before, and what kind of man are you now?
Yeah, well, honestly, at the time, I didn't even really identify with being a man. I had really negative connotations to the idea of what a man was.
Wow.
And from a relatively early age, I got confronted with the prevalence of sexual assault. And my high school sweetheart was raped on her 15th birthday just before she met me. I ended up being the first person she told. We ended up in a 3-year relationship. It was ever present. It had a huge impact on me. I was like 17 years old. I wasn't equipped to handle that. And then from there, I ended up becoming that person that women shared their stories with. And so I just got hit with these stories left and right and left and right and left and right, and their own wounding around the masculine I ended up taking on, and both disconnecting from other men, distrusting other men, as well as disconnecting from that part of myself and distrusting my own masculinity. Yeah. So that's the kind of man I was before. While I had these certain elements that I'm today still like really trying to ignite more in other men around, be a fucking stand for something.
Yeah, because you're an activist, you said.
Yeah, and it's funny, my presentation yesterday was on the evolved masculine, which is my signature talk, so to speak, these days. The people who come to events like this tend to be the men, because my message is definitely focused towards the men. I love women. I have massive respect, honor, awe of women. You're so needed, and your rise is so welcome. And with that, a lot of men don't know what to do with that, to put simply. There are men who are responding. There are men who are responding in a similar way as Donald Trump is a perfect representation of as men, the feminism is the worst thing that ever happened to humanity, and as men we need to reassert our place, put women back in their place, and take back that dominance and control. And while Trump is a little bit more complicated than that, he certainly ran a campaign that reinforced a number of those pieces. So there's that, the anger and the resentment, and we must take this back from those uppity women. And then there are other men which are more dominant in this type of a environment who have responded to the rise of the feminine with, let's worship the goddess, yes to the feminine. I don't want to do anything to make her feel uncomfortable or disrespected, or I don't want to be that guy or come across creepy. So in the process, he completely emasculates himself, he disempowers himself, he's lost sense of his own truth, his own desires, his own masculine power. And so really the evolved masculine, as I define it, is this third way.
So if a man's listening to this and he's sitting there and he's thinking, what the fuck am I supposed to do? I'm not getting it right here, I'm not getting it right there, I don't know what the fuck to do, I don't know how I'm supposed to be as a man. What would you say to this guy?
Yeah. Seek support. Honestly, I think that this is part of it. In being in this realm, I have at least 10 colleagues, female colleagues, who are running different forms of women's empowerment groups or women's circles for every one man who's doing work like that. And the women who are doing that work are like, where are the men? Where are the men who can really handle us, who can really meet us here? And it makes my work really in demand, which is nice. But seek support, whether from me or there are other great men out there doing good work. Unfortunately, there's far more men out there doing questionable work, who may have great elements, but then they have really toxic elements as well, especially in this area of men teaching other men about being a man, women, sex. There's a lot of toxic stuff out there. So recognize, first, like, watch, what are you taking in? And is this really feeling an integrity? Is this something that you feel very proud of? Is this something that you can proclaim to the world? Yes, I am a part of this, and I am fucking proud of it. Is this something that you can, that the women in your life are like, yes, I'm so glad you're doing that? Or are they, or do you feel you need to hide that, or you do it under a different name? Keep this because.
Can I ask you something about
Please.
this? So I know loads of really beautiful conscious men, but I have also noticed the difference in how the men that I know and the women that I know address these issues of evolution and development. And I've noticed a quality of pride or perhaps a difficulty in admitting vulnerability in the men that I know. So how would you address that?
Oh, well, we're trained very differently, men and women. And as men, we're supposed to, just by being a man, you're supposed to already know it all, have it all figured out. Be a rock star in bed, be a self-made multimillionaire, be hard, ever strong, impenetrable, absolute control of your emotions, and anything other than that is to show weakness. And as men, by and large, in our larger dominant society, you're not supposed to show weakness. People will take advantage of your weakness. People will shut you down for your weakness. Other men will crush you. Women will be repelled by you.
So that's the dominant message.
Yes.
Yeah. So how do you deal with that with the guys that you work with?
A lot of the men who come my way are already turned off by that dominant message. It's just they're seeking something to take its place. Like, if not that, then what? Right. One, if you're listening to this and feeling any sort of resonance, if you're even hearing those words, you're like, yeah, it feels so heavy. Just know, this is the power of community. When there is, like, this is the dominant messaging, it's very difficult to own something else, to be like, okay, well, I guess that's just how it is. So by seeping yourself in a different mentality, a different energy field, so to speak, it gives you something else to relax into. Here's, with the men who join our Evolved Masculine Path, we say that this is a space that welcomes what I call powerful vulnerability. I like that phrasing because we don't, especially as men, we don't think of vulnerability as being powerful, but it is in two fronts. One, the very act of being vulnerable actually has a really strong impact on the people around you. And the other part is, it actually takes a certain power to be vulnerable. It's like, here, this is me in my total vulnerability, and I can share it fully with you. Take your slings and arrows, and I know I'll be okay. And that's powerful.
So you've talked about powerful vulnerability, and you said there's another half to that. So what's the other half?
Aside from the community really supporting it and being a space for your powerful vulnerability, it's also a space or community to call you into your strength. Because we really need that as both. It's not, unfortunately, again, you see men who are good with vulnerability, but then they just like collapse into that space. Right. And it's like, no. Yes, we want all of you. And you are strong. You are powerful. Maybe you just need to remember that. But you are strong and you are powerful. And there is an infinite well of power within you that you can tap into and maybe even surprise you with what can come out of you, what you can do, what you can create, what you can make happen in this life. And that's the you that I want to see.
Wow. So you know that anything is possible, right?
I, you know, I've been on this path for quite some time now, and the life that I have created for myself, I never would have imagined. I mean, it's one thing to, sometimes I speak of like creating the life of your dreams, but the truth is, I've created a life beyond my dreams. There's so much that I mean, just this past week, Jesus, that I've experienced, I never would have imagined was possible. I mean, I have an international lifestyle with I mean, I'm in 6 or 7 countries this year with my work. I used that first time 12 years ago, well, not the first, but 12 years ago, I traveled on a total shoestring, $200 for 2.5 months. Now I can spend money freely, but more than that, I'm paid well to do my traveling. I have a woman at my side who not only do I love and adore and am I turned on by and have an absolutely incredible sex life with, but who inspires me, who's powerful in her own right, who's tapped into her own gifts, who lifts me up, believes in me, accepts and loves me so fully and completely. I mean, that alone is so potent. And these things aren't accidents. You know, they all end up, that came into my life because of this inner work that I've been doing.
So you really stepped up into this yourself, and you've created this amazing life, and you're showing everyone that it's possible to be anything and everything you want to be.
If anything, I just want to be an example of possibility and inspire of, like, you know, what would it look like for you if you were to take off all limitation? Really, I mean, it can be scary sometimes to let yourself really dream, because I'm sure you've had the experience of you've wanted something, you've dreamed something, and then it didn't happen. And honestly, yeah, I've had that experience too. If I have any gift that has really served me in this life, it's tenacity. It's a refusal to stop. No matter, there's a Japanese proverb of fall down 7 times, get up 8. Like more like fall down 700 times. just keep going, get up, keep going. It's not just resiliency though, which is itself a powerful thing, but that through it, if you have a choice, you can collapse, or you can take it and become stronger and more powerful as a result.
I've got 2 more questions for you.
Yeah, please.
So Destin, what does the evolved masculine look like?
I have a 5-minute rendition of it, but
Define this 3rd way.
I'm going to run through this quickly. If you want the deeper version of it, contact me. Destin@evolvedmasculine.com. The evolved masculine is grounded. He knows who he is. He knows his principles and his values. He's a stand for those principles and values. He's able to walk this material plane without fear. It's all in himself. He's connected to his core of his masculinity, of the primal animalistic aspects of being a man, that energy and the power that exists within that. He is safe and secure in his being. Others feel safe and secure simply being in his presence. He owns himself as a sexual being. His sexuality is neither something that controls him, nor is it something that is repressed. Rather, it is something that is integrated into the whole of who he is, mind, body, and spirit. He owns and claims his power. He's not afraid of his power. He chooses to be powerful. Not the old paradigm, power over others, make other people feel small so he feels big, but rather that deep sense of power that's sourced from within, that actually inspires other people to be more powerful simply by him being in it. He's connected to his heart. He loves freely, purely, fiercely. He can pour forth love, but he also is open to receive love. He knows that he is deserving of love. He is love. He is fully expressed. He is clear. He is a man of integrity. He says what he does what he says. He lives an authentic life, knowing his desires, his fears, and boundaries, able to communicate and maintain those. He is a man with a cultivated, fierce intellect, as well as a developed intuition, that knowing without thought, the ability to find stillness of the mind. And a man connected to spirit, source, divinity, not relegated to any old dogmatic way of being that was passed down, but rather a unique relationship to the divine that is his and his alone. And from that, a strong sense of his spiritual, personal purpose. Why are you here? What are you doing with this life? What are you willing to live for? What are you willing to die for? That is the evolved masculine. One caveat. I am not the evolved masculine. At my best, I can step into all of these. I've been playing with all of these ideas for some time now, and because of that attention there, each of these have become more and more and more a part of me. So as any man who gave each of these attention, they will become more and more a part of him. But I am not the evolved masculine. It is more like a lighthouse, a north star, a guiding light that guides the direction that I walk. If I ever reached it, I'm not dreaming out far enough, or it's time to vision again. We as men today, we need not just examples of the masculinity gone wrong, not just of what not to do, but inspiring examples of what we are truly capable of being. I believe in the goodness of men, and that when we hold these types of visions and see what is possible, we will rise to the occasion. And ultimately, that depends on you. My call to the men in my life and the men that I work with is to become the role model that you wished that you had. We need it now more than ever. Thank you.
I feel the power of that. Wow. I'm blown away. Thank you so much, Destin. As a woman, as someone who walks the earth, as a mother, as just a person living in this time, thank you so much for the work that you do and for everything that you've shared with us. So brilliant, so clear, so inspiring. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. And thank you so much for watching. Join me again for the next Heart to Heart with me, Shakti Sundari.